Hi everybody, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope y'all are having a good day today. Today I thought that I would do a video about identity. So in my previous video I mentioned there's going to be sort of a change in this channel, and it's just talking about identity and some of the things that I feel have really made a change in my life since the non-dual realization. So identity falls away when you are realizing non-duality. When it happens to you, you lose your complete sense of self. You realize that there is no self. So this is kind of going along with that, but also speaking of it in a more practical sense for anyone who hasn't had that non-dual realization. You don't have to have that non-dual realization to realize this, especially when I explain it and break it down into smaller chunks. So I thought I would make a video today just talking about identity in general. What is it? So identity is something that's really ever changing. We think it's a permanent thing. We think that we are this person. We think that we are this personality. We think that we are this way. We've been this way since we're a child. We have these quirks. We do this, we do that. We begin to identify with things in life, like our profession, our role in life, if we're a mother, a daughter, whatever it is, throughout life. And we identify with these. And what happens is identity isn't something that's fixed. It's ever changing. So you can identify as much as you want in your job. So for example, I'll just give some examples here of real life things that I've identified with. So for a time there, I was hired as a teacher at a school district. I had been teaching preschool and things like that for a while, and then I transitioned into teaching kindergarten at the school district. Well, it was a bit different there because it was a little more intense. There was more hours, there was more demands than at the Head Start Center that I had been working at doing the preschool. So what I began to notice working at this school is that my identity began to change. My identity became more of that of a teacher. So I basically lived, breathed teaching all day, every day, even on weekends that, were supposed to be time off. If any of y'all are teachers, thank you so much for what you do. That's amazing work, and it's very time consuming. It's very taxing on the self as well. But it can be very rewarding as well if you have the heart for it. So going back to what happened to me was I wasn't prepared for that. I didn't realize that a profession could become your identity. So I had worked previous jobs even prior to the preschool job, counseling and doing things like that. And, I had my time at work, but then after work, I always had my own time. Well, come to find out with teaching, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to myself. So after I would teach all day, I'd come home and try to learn what I was going to teach the next day, create the lesson plans, just more detailed, and create all of that, get all the materials together, just kind of get my mind around what was going to happen the next day. By the time that was all done, I would probably get out a few things to grade or prepare again for the next day, and then I'd have dinner or something like that and try to spend some time at home by myself. Well, that wasn't no more than maybe 15 minutes when I was already thinking about the issues that the students were having and how to combat those issues, how to go about helping these children. So then my mind was full of those thoughts. Then it was time for bed, and before bed, again, I would have racing thoughts of everything that would happen the next day, how the day would go, what did I need to do, again, thinking about all the students and their particular needs. When I would go shopping or anything like that, let's say I was able to do that or something, I was always looking for things for the classroom. I was always looking for things that would aid me in teaching and all of those things. So what I came to find out was even on my time off, on my weekends, I was spending time teaching, like preparing all of the other things that are behind the scenes that teachers do, creating things for the classroom, thinking of ways to help children, all of that, even on weekends. And, Saturday was mainly my day off because by Sunday, I was really in that mode again of planning for the next day. So my identity began to change. And after a month or two, I realized I wasn't doing anything to take care of myself. I wasn't doing anything that I normally enjoyed doing because I was so caught up in the identity of being a teacher. And while some people absolutely love this, it really wasn't my calling. So it just wasn't in alignment with me, and I had to leave that profession. But there are people that absolutely love teaching, and it is part of their identity. Now, let's say that something happens to that person's health, or there's an accident, or there is something preventing them from continuing working as a teacher. What happens to that person's identity then? Because in that time that my identity kind of transformed into the identity of a teacher, I began to see I didn't really know who I was. And this was before the non-dual realization. But when that identity transformed into a teacher's identity, I sat there and I thought, I haven't done anything for myself. And then I began to question even who I was. So identity isn't very fixed. It seems that it is. It seems like when someone asks, who are you, or tell us something about yourself, it can sometimes be difficult to think of something to come up with, but there are things that we identify with. But that identity can be shattered and changed very quickly. So again, going back to teaching, if you lose your job as a teacher and that's your primary identity, that's going to send you into an identity crisis. And an identity crisis is where you don't align with what your actual reality is. So you think you're a teacher, but you're no longer a teacher working in the classroom. The most common identity crisis is like midlife crisis, things like that. So midlife crisis is when you're no longer a younger person anymore. So you realize, you think you're young and you're living your life, and then somebody says something like, yes ma'am, yes sir, I don't know, something that makes it seem to you that you are seen as older by others. And then you question why that doesn't align with your idea of your identity being a young person, and it can send you to have that identity crisis where you go out and start dressing younger, maybe go out and get a sports car or something that eludes or kind of brings back that youthfulness to your identity. So we have to be careful in how much importance we put onto our identity, because our identity is ever changing, just like life is. There is nothing that is staying still. There is nothing that is permanent other than just what this is. But what is actually happening in life is ever changing, always changing. And we can't control that. That's where suffering comes in, when we want to hold on to something that is ever changing. What we are is something that can't be grasped. It's not something centered in time and space somewhere. It's always changing. And if you watch some of my previous videos about non-duality, I speak of that because that is the true nature of reality. And suffering, again, like I say, comes in when we try to hold on to that identity or anything really in life, because it's not going to stay that way. So if we want to stay young forever, or we think that that is our identity, but we begin to age, we're going to be deeply unhappy because it's not going to align with reality. So that's just something to keep in mind. Now, I wanted to bring up something that I think really spoke to me. It was a quote by Michelangelo, and they were talking to him about the statue of David. And I don't know the quote right off my top of my head here, but it goes something to the effect that they asked him, how did he create David? And Michelangelo said that in every stone there is a David in every stone. It's the sculptor's job to look and create that David within that stone. So I think I maybe butchered that quote a little bit, but the gist of it and the reason that it stuck so much with me is because that's kind of what I'm going to be going over in these videos. What you are, what you want to be, everything you've maybe dreamed of, wished of, desired, or anything is all in your grasp. It's all already here. Everything that could, would ever happen is currently here and now. There is no time and space. Again, you can go back and watch some of my videos. But just like that stone, where everything is already there to create David, David's in there. There's just all these extra pieces, all this extra stone. David's already there. So whatever you imagine, whatever you want for yourself, whatever identity you want to be is already here and now. You may have to be like that sculptor and chisel away some things that don't belong. But what you want is already here and now. You just have to see it. And then prune away and get rid of anything that is not in alignment with that. So that's what I'm going to be going over in these videos, is talking about all of those things that are not who we really are. And when I say who we really are, I mean our divine nature. And our divine nature is always here. There is always the spiritual, and there is always what is happening here in this apparent reality. But it's all one. But there is so much that we can't see that's happening within ourselves. So I'm going to be pointing to that and kind of helping anyone that likes these videos to find out who they really are. Live authentically. Or what if you want to live a whole different life? What if you want to do, something else? Whatever it is that you want to do, it's attainable. It's already here and now. So I'm going to be talking about those things. And when I gave the example of David being a stone and, Michelangelo being that sculptor that has to sculpt everything away to find David, that is what you will be doing, because there are so many parts of us that don't belong. For example, I grew up a child, who was scared of a lot of things. I was also labeled a child that was shy. I developed certain coping mechanisms, certain different ways of being because of the way my family dynamic was, and the way that I was showing up in the world at that time. But a lot of what happens is that we are shaped into being the person that we are today. And some of those quirks and things that people say about us, okay, that person is shy, or that person is outgoing, or that person is always a very fearful person, or whatever labels are put on us by others or even ourselves that maybe we accept for ourselves, aren't necessarily who we are. A lot of those things have come out of our environment growing up. They have come out of trauma. They have come out of experiences, and they have come from other people labeling us, other people seeing us certain ways that may not be who we really are. So we may have to prune away a lot of those labels. We may have to prune away a lot of those coping mechanisms that were maybe needed at a certain time because of trauma or something going on, but they're no longer needed now, not at this present moment. So I just wanted to kind of give an introduction into what I'll be speaking about with identity. Again, identity, the main thing to remember is it's not fixed. It's always changing. So my identity has gone from being a baby to a child to a preteen to a teenager to an adult. And then there's big changes, right? There's big changes from going to a child to an adult, from an adult to a student, to a wife, to a mother, to a teacher, to a counselor, to a church member, to, daughter, pet owner. There are so many different things that we can identify with. And then there's so many groups and beliefs that are also part of our identity. So our political affiliations, again, our religious or spiritual beliefs, our beliefs about reality, our beliefs about ourselves, all these beliefs, all of these things make up our identity, and they're ever changing. And if you ever have a non-dual realization, all of that instantly falls away. So it's kind of, I guess you could say I cheated. When I had a non-dual realization, all of that was cleared for me. But come to find out now, I realized that without the non-dual realization, that can be realized as well. Just by realizing that who you think you are is not a fixed thing. It's something that's always changing. And it's not something that you have to identify with forever, even if you are considered a shy person or something like that. If you don't want to be that way, it doesn't have to be that way. You can be whatever you want because it's already here in existence now. You just have to identify with it and leave those other pieces aside. just like Michelangelo did with David. So let's create a masterpiece of an identity that you feel like is your authentic self. Come back and see some of my videos about identity for the next few videos, and we'll go along this journey together exploring what is identity. I hope y'all enjoyed this video. I hope y'all continue to have an amazing day. If you're new here and you like this sort of content, please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for all of you who have sent me emails and messages and things like that about the transition of the channel. I think it was very well received, and I am very happy to continue on making videos for y'all. So tune in, and I think I will be posting videos once a week from now on. I do work a full-time job and have other responsibilities, but I will definitely make it my goal to post at least once a week. So please come back, and I hope to see y'all again. Thank you.